Ladies and gentlemen, e-commerce has been strongly promoted in the context of COVID-19 pandemic and has accelerated fundamental change in the way businesses operate and provide goods and services to consumers in Vietnam. For that reason, the Law on Tax Administration number 38, 2019, QH14, dated June 13, 2019, Decree number 126, 2020, NDCP, dated October 19, 2020, of the government, and Circular number 80, 2021, TT-BTC, on September 29, 2021, hereafter called Circular number 80, have been issued to detail the tax regulation applicable to foreign providers of goods and services to consumers in Vietnam. Specifically, foreign providers without permanent establishment in Vietnam carrying out e-commerce, digital platform-based business, and other services with organizations and individuals in Vietnam are obliged to directly perform tax registration, tax declaration, and tax payment in Vietnam, or to authorize organization and tax agent operating under Vietnamese law to perform these tax procedures on their behalf in Vietnam. On March 21, 2020, the General Department of Taxation officially launched the portal for foreign providers with the goal of creating the best condition for foreign providers to comply with Vietnamese tax laws. In this clip, the General Department of Taxation will introduce procedures on tax registration, tax declaration, and tax payment on the portal for foreign providers. Clip will cover instruction on the followings. Part 1. Subjects of application. Part 2. Tax registration. Part 3. Changing tax registration information. Part 4. Tax declaration. Part 5. Checking submitted documents. Part 6. Tax payment. Part 7. Frequently asked questions. Article 73, Circular number 80 specifies organizations and individuals involved in tax administration for e-commerce business, digital platform-based business, and other services provided by foreign providers without permanent establishment in Vietnam, including 1. Foreign providers without a permanent establishment in Vietnam, carrying out e-commerce, digital platform-based business, and other services with organizations and individuals in Vietnam. 2. Organizations and individuals in Vietnam purchasing goods and services from foreign providers. 3. Tax organizations and agents operating under Vietnamese law and authorized by foreign providers to perform tax registration, tax declaration, and tax payment in Vietnam on their behalf. 4. Commercial banks, payment intermediary service providers, and other organizations and individuals who have rights and obligations related to e-commerce business, digital platform-based business, and other services of foreign providers. In preparation for tax registration, foreign providers, tax agents, and other authorized organizations collectively referred to as taxpayers prepares a translation into English or Vietnamese of Certificate of Tax Identification Number or Business License or equivalent documents. In case a foreign provider authorizes a tax agent or other organization for tax registration in Vietnam, the foreign provider needs to prepare a power of attorney in Vietnam in advance. To apply for tax registration, taxpayers should perform following steps. Steps for tax registration. Step 1. The taxpayer accesses the portal for foreign providers at the address worldwideweb.etaxvn.gdt.gov.vn and clicks Tax Registration. At this time, the screen will display the tax registration form number 01/NCCNN attached to Circular number 80. The taxpayer enters the required information in the form 01/NCCNN, including 18 lines, in which the lines marked with asterisk are mandatory to fill in. First, for declarant item, the taxpayer selects and ticks whether he is a foreign provider or an authorized entity of a foreign provider. Then, For items from 1 to 7, the taxpayer declares information about the foreign provider, including Item 1. Full name. Item 2. Date of business commenced under certificate or equivalent documents. Item 3. Business email address. Item 4. Address in the country in which business is established. Item 5. Country in which business is established. Item 6. Postal code of the country in which business is established. Item 7. Tax identification number, business code, or equivalent in the country in which business is established. For items from 8 to 11, the taxpayer declares information about the legal representative of the foreign provider, including Item 8. Full name of the legal representative of the business. Item 9. Passport number. Item 10. Email address. Item 11. Mobile phone number, including international country calling code, if any, in which the taxpayer notes that the item 10 will be the email address to receive information on electronic transaction with tax authorities. For items from 12 to 17, the taxpayer declares information about tax agent or authorized organization in Vietnam, including Item 12. Full name of the tax agent, authorized organization in Vietnam. Item 13. Email address. Item 14. Mobile phone number in Vietnam, if any. Item 15. Tax identification number. Item 16. Authorization period. Item 17. Scope of authorization. The taxpayer selects and ticks the authorization scope, including tax declaration, tax payment, change of information, other. The taxpayer should note that in the event that the foreign provider authorizes another entity to perform tax obligation, the email address of the authorized organization in Item 13 will simultaneously receive information on electronic transaction with tax authorities. For Item 18, the taxpayer needs to provide information about e-commerce business, digital platform-based business, and other services of the foreign provider generating revenue in Vietnam. After entering all the necessary information, the taxpayer moves to declaration section and ticks 3 boxes of commitment, confirming all the above information is true and taking responsibility for the declared information. By submitting this tax registration form, the business simultaneously registers with the electronic transaction service of the tax authorities. The business and authorized legal representatives will be responsible for filing tax returns and paying tax in accordance with Vietnamese law. Then, clicks on the Attach Profile button to go to the next step. Step 2. For this step, the taxpayer needs to attach the prepared documents described above, including Certificate of Tax Identification Number or Business License or equivalent documents, Power of Attorney in Vietnam, and other documents, if any. Step 3. The system will display once again the information declared by the taxpayer so that the taxpayer can check it again and then click Complete. Step 4. After completing the step of tax registration, the system will ask the taxpayer to enter the verification code. A verification code in the form of a series of 8 characters will be automatically sent to the email registered on the declaration. Successfully entering the verification code demonstrates completion of the tax registration process by taxpayers. The taxpayer will receive a notice of receipt of electronic tax registration dossier that includes an electronic transaction code so that the taxpayer can check the status of their application. Step 5. A response will be sent by tax authority to the taxpayer's registered email within 2 working days. In case the dossier is approved, an email containing a tax identification number and electronic tax transaction account will be sent to the email which taxpayer registered in the declaration. This account will be used to access the portal for foreign providers and to carry out own tax procedures in Vietnam. In case the dossier is incomplete or not eligible, the tax authority shall send a notice of invalid contents to the email address of the taxpayer. The taxpayer use the transaction code provided in the notice to check unsuccessfully submitted dossiers in order to correct and resubmit. Pursuant to Article 76 of Circular Number 80, in case change to tax registration information need to be made, the foreign provider shall submit a dossier for a change of tax registration information by using Form number 01-1/NCCNN attached to Appendix 1 of this circular to the Supervisory Tax Authority on the portal for foreign providers. Step 1. The taxpayer accesses the portal for foreign providers with the provided account. Then clicks Tax Registration and selects the declaration form number 01-1/NCCNN Declaration for Adjustment and Supplementation of Tax Registration Information. The system displays the declaration form number 01-1/NCCNN. At this time, the taxpayer enters the information that needs to be adjusted into the new registration information column and clicks Complete. Step 2. The taxpayer rechecks the information and attach relevant documents. Then submits the declaration. Step 3. The taxpayer enters the verification code, which is automatically sent to the registered email to complete the application to adjust and supplement the tax registration information. A response will be sent by tax authority to the taxpayer's registered email within 2 working days from the date tax authority receives the dossier. Pursuant to the provisions of Article 77 of Circular Number 80, foreign providers shall declare tax directly using Form number 02/NCCNN attached to Appendix 1 of the circular. Tax declaration, tax payment shall be made on a quarterly basis. Step 1. To carry out tax declaration, the taxpayer accesses the portal for foreign providers and clicks Tax Declaration and choose the Form 02/NCCNN Tax Declaration for E-commerce business in Vietnam. Then select applicable tax period and the currency for tax declaration and tax payment purposes. Currently, 14 freely convertible currencies for tax declaration and tax payment purposes are available on the portal. Step 2. The system will display the declaration form number 02/NCCNN. The taxpayer shall choose to take from a country which sign a double tax agreement with Vietnam where applicable. Section A. In terms of revenue generated in Vietnam, the taxpayer selects and fills in the following items. For item 1, the taxpayer selects and ticks the type of business, supply of goods and services in each respective line. After selecting the type of goods and services, the system will automatically display the corresponding tax rates in item 4 and 8. These tax rates are displayed based on Decree number 209/2013, NDCP dated December 18, 2013, and Decree number 218/2013, NDCP dated December 26, 2013 of the government. For item 2 and item 6, the taxpayer enters revenue subject to VAT and CIT respectively. Revenue subject to VAT and CIT is determined according to point C, Clause 1, Article 77, Circular Number 80. The revenue subject to VAT shall be the revenue received by the foreign provider. The revenue subject to CIT shall be the revenue received by the foreign provider. For item 3 and item 7, the taxpayer enters the revenue from which Vietnamese counterparties withheld tax before payment. For item 9, the taxpayer itself determines and enters the tax amount exempted or reduced under a double tax agreement. For item 5 and item 10, VAT payable and CIT payable shall be automatically calculated by the system. For item 11, total tax payable will be the sum of item 5 and item 10, and this will be calculated and displayed both in numbers and words. Section B. In terms of goods transaction carried out in Vietnam, the taxpayer selects and fills in the following items. Item 1. The taxpayer selects and ticks the type of business, supply of goods and services in Vietnam. Item 2. Revenue subject to CIT. Item 3. Revenue from which Vietnamese counterparties withheld tax before payment. Item 4. Deemed CIT rate. The system will automatically display corresponding to the type of business, supply of goods and services in Vietnam. Item 5. Tax amount exempted or reduced under a double tax agreement. Item 6. CIT payable shall be automatically calculated by the system. The way to fill the items 1, 2, 3, and 5 is similar to those in Section A. After selecting and entering all the items, the taxpayer clicks the Complete button. Step 3. The system will again display the contents of the declaration so that the taxpayer can check it again, then submit the declaration. Step 4. The taxpayer enters the verification code, which will be automatically sent to the registered email to complete the tax declaration. After submitting the declaration, the system will send a notice of confirmation of receipt of the tax declaration with a transaction code to the registered email. The taxpayer can use this information to check their submitted declaration as follows. The taxpayer accesses the portal for foreign providers and clicks Checking Submitted Documents. Then enters the requested information. Profile form. The taxpayer selects the declaration form they want to check. Transaction code. The taxpayer enters the transaction code provided in the notice of confirmation of receipt of the tax declaration. From date to date, the taxpayer enters applicable dates. After entering the information, the taxpayer clicks Search. The system will return the status of the declaration. After completion of the tax declaration, the system will send an email confirming receipt of the tax declaration and providing instruction for the tax payment. The email contains information on payment identifier, total amount payable, payable currency, account number, and SWIFT code of the State Treasury Exchange account opened at Vietcombank and money transfer content. The taxpayer strictly follows the payment instruction to transfer money to the account number of the State Treasury Exchange. Checking payment identifier. The taxpayer can check the payment information as follows. The taxpayer accesses the portal for foreign providers and clicks Checking Payment Identifier. Then enters the requested information. Payment Identifier. The taxpayer enters the payment identifier provided in the registered email. From date to date, the taxpayer enters applicable dates. After entering the information, the taxpayer clicks Search. The system will display information on the tax payable declared in the declaration form, the date of submission of the declaration, and the tax amount paid. The final section will be devoted to some frequently asked questions. Hopefully, it will help foreign providers to somewhat better understand how to register, declare, and pay taxes. Our company is located overseas. We don't have headquarters in Vietnam, and we provide goods and services to organizations and individuals in Vietnam. Are we subject to tax registration, tax declaration, and tax payment in Vietnam? If registration is required, how do we apply for registration? Can we do it online, or do we need to submit a paper copy? Article 42 of the Law on Tax Administration, number 38, 2019, QH 14, specifies. Article 42, Rules for Tax Declaration and Tax Calculation. Clause 4, regarding e-commerce, digital platform-based business, and other services provided by foreign providers without permanent establishment in Vietnam. The foreign providers are obliged to directly perform tax registration, tax declaration, and tax payment in Vietnam, or to authorize representatives to perform these tax procedures on their behalf in Vietnam, in accordance with regulation of the Minister of Finance. Clause 1, Article 76 of Circular Number 80 specifies. Application for first-time taxpayer registration. The foreign providers shall directly declare tax using form number 02/NCCNN attached to Appendix 1 of this circular on the portal of General Department of Taxation. Pursuant to the above provisions, companies without permanent establishment in Vietnam carrying out e-commerce, digital platform-based business, and other services with organizations and individuals in Vietnam are required to register, declare, and pay taxes online with regard to revenue generated in Vietnam via the portal for foreign providers. We are a foreign provider without a permanent establishment in Vietnam and supply services to organizations and individuals in Vietnam via Internet. We have directly registered, declared, and paid taxes in Vietnam via the portal for foreign providers. Can our company switch over to authorizing representatives to perform tax declaration and tax payment in Vietnam on our behalf? Clause 2, Article 79 of Circular Number 80 specifies. If foreign providers who have directly registered, declared, and paid taxes in Vietnam wish to switch over to authorizing organizations and tax agents to perform tax declaration and tax payment on their behalf, then within 5 working days before the effective date of the authorization contract, the foreign providers must notify the supervisory tax authority by changing the information using form number 01-1/NCCNN attached to Appendix 1 of this circular and enclosed documents related to the authorization. So, foreign providers can authorize representatives to perform tax declaration and tax payment in Vietnam on their behalf after completion of direct registration, declaration, and payment of taxes in Vietnam via portal for foreign providers. In which currency should a foreign provider without a permanent establishment in Vietnam supplying goods and services to organizations and individuals in Vietnam declare and pay taxes? Point 1D, Article 4 of Circular Number 80 specifies. Point D, e-commerce, digital platform-based business, and other services provided by foreign providers without permanent establishment in Vietnam declare and pay taxes to state budget in freely convertible foreign currencies. So, foreign providers of e-commerce, digital platform-based business, and other services without permanent establishment in Vietnam can make payment into the state budget using freely convertible foreign currencies. Currently, 14 are available. Therefore, taxpayers who declare tax in any foreign currency will pay tax in that foreign currency. The tax management system will automatically monitor and manage tax obligations in foreign currencies declared and paid by taxpayers. What is the deadline for foreign providers to declare and pay taxes in Vietnam? Article 77 of Circular Number 80 specifies tax declaration and tax payment by foreign providers shall be made on a quarterly basis. Article 44 of the Law on Tax Administration, Number 38, 2019, QH 14 specifies. Article 44. Deadline for submission of tax declaration. Clause 1. Deadline for submission of tax declaration dossiers for taxes declared on a monthly or quarterly basis is prescribed as follows. Point B. For taxes declared and paid on a quarterly basis, no later than the last day of the first month of the quarter following the quarter in which the tax liability arises. Ladies and gentlemen, we have highlighted basic function of the portal for foreign providers. Just by accessing the portal, foreign providers can easily declare and pay taxes arising from their business operation in Vietnam. You can rewatch this video on different channels of the General Department of Taxation, such as social networking sites like Facebook, YouTube, and Zalo. Thank you for your attention.